Okay, at this time I want to go to the end of the City Council agenda and have Nancy Skinner make her presentation.
Mayor Bukowski, council members, thank you very much. Public, city staff. I'm Nancy Skinner, and I'm Emeryville's representative to the East Bay Regional Park District Board. Representative of Ward 1, and it's actually more than Emeryville. It includes many of the communities along the I-80 corridor north. So I'm here tonight to talk to you about the Park District's intention to put on the ballot in November an extension of the bond that was passed by the voters. And in 1988, the Park District put a bond measure on the ballot that was passed, got the 2/3 vote required by the two counties, and created a pool of funds for the Park District to use to be able to acquire many and expand many of the parks that we now manage. You're familiar, I'm sure, with many of our gorgeous parks, including right along Emeryville, the East Shore State Park, Point Isabel, Briones, Redwood, Tilden, Crab Cove, Point Pinole, Sunol. There's lots. And so we are so fortunate that back in the 30s, late 20s and 30s, in the middle of the Depression, we had people who lived in the East Bay that had the wisdom to, even though everybody was facing terrible economic times, to set aside money and create a park district and purchase some of Ebb Mudd's land. The first land that was purchased was Ebb Mudd land that they were going to put onto the private market, and then other lands in our hillsides that have basically created a green belt. And since that establishment, and with the support of the voters through the bond measure and others, we've been able to create a gorgeous, gorgeous green belt in our East Bay, and also many acres of parks with trails, with areas for mountain bikers, people for their dogs, for all kinds of recreational purposes, and programs for our school kids. The East Bay Regional Park District is the largest urban park district in the United States. So our intention is to put on the ballot in this November 08, an extension of that bond measure. We are going to be able to generate over that period of time about $500 million to be able to enhance the parks. So in 1988's bond, the city of Emeryville received $141,000. And you used it on one particular project, which sadly, I'm sorry, but I don't know the name of the project that you used it on, but that's the revenue that you received. Karen, do you? Okay, Stanford Avenue Park. Now, because we're able to generate a larger pool of funds in this next bond issue, if we're successful, and we hope and we intend to be, Emeryville would receive $423,000 in this park bond measure. And right now, projects that are in the draft measure, we haven't finalized it yet, are expansion of East Shore State Park, including doing some of the improvements that all of us have wanted along the Bay Trail and along Emeryville, the wetlands and that area, and also what's called Gateway, which is the area, the marshes and wetlands, they're adjacent to the beginning of the East Bay Bridge. So our hope is to be able to expand trail there, get bike and pedestrian and other access, and so we have a significant amount of money in the draft in our project list for the bond measure for both East Shore and Gateway. This is a brochure that describes the bond measure, describes what we did with the money we had from 1988 till now, and we did fulfill our promises, and it also lists the draft projects that we're considering now. If you look at the remaining open space in our two counties, which is not that much, we realize that if all of us do not unite now to obtain those parcels that are available, we may lose them forever. And so we realized that this was one of those moments in time where we really did need to continue to prioritize acquisition. Last thing I'll say is that I mentioned East Shore and Gateway, but you'll notice that there's a significant amount of money also for Bay Trail in general and for the water trail. And what the water trail means is for access along different parts of our shoreline for people to be able to put in for kayaking, windsurfing, and others. And we're also intending some campgrounds for the boat, for people who are using boats. And so monies that are both in water trail and Bay Trail would be directed towards our areas too.
Great. Well, thank you very much for the presentation.